Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily with Ray Flowers, Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't forget to use the promo code FSD20 for a 20% discount on the products over at fantasyguru.com. Hey there, everybody. Ray Flowers of fantasyguru.com. How you doing today? You happy? You fun? You full of energy? You looking forward to the next, 50 or so minutes here on the show? I am Ray Flowers, your host every day, Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't forget to do everything or have everything to your heart's desire fulfilled when you go over to fantasyguru.com. Fantasyguru.com is obviously the place to be. It's where you want to get all your fantasy analysis, whether it's baseball, football, NASCAR, PGA, MMA, all that kind of good stuff. We got you rocking and rolling at fantasyguru.com. The show is here Monday through Friday, again, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thinking about moving it later, an hour. And I mentioned this previously, maybe when football season gets going here in a little bit, maybe moving it an hour later. So comments in chat room at fantasyguru.com. Comments here are appreciated. Let me know what your thought process is with that. You can leave your comments, obviously, here if you're watching on YouTube at youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork. You can also leave your comments if you're watching live on Facebook, facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ. Might back it up an hour. To be truthful, my lady she started a new job. She's actually general counsel. She's the chief legal counsel for the company. She's also the COO. So employee number one. I'm very proud of her. And she's going to be going down to San Diego a little bit. She's actually down there right now. She's going to be going to San Diego for some work and all that. So it helps me out a lot because the last couple of days, because she's down in San Diego, I'm literally getting up at 5:40 in the morning to take the dog out before the show. So it might be nice if we could back up the show an hour. That would allow me to get up at 6:40 instead of 5:40. It's not too bad at this time of year when the sun is out, but when it gets to be football season in a couple of months and 5:40 in the morning, it's dark and no bueno, Ray Flowers. So might do that moving forward. Right now, what are we going to do today? Well, we got a lot to talk about today. And there it is on the screen. We're going to start out with some spotty news about gambling. I kind of go into this. We had this with obviously the situation with Shohei Ohtani, and here it comes again. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. We've got a bunch of players in the news. Victor Robles has got a new team. Anthony Santander finally found his swing. Heliot Ramos with the Giants doing some nice things. Jeimer, Candelario, Noelvi, Marte, Starling, Marte. On the pitching side of things, Ryne Nelson had a good effort last night on the surface. We'll talk about that a little bit. Some strugglers on the hill last night. And it was a bad night for DFS. It was a bad night for seasonal. Justin Verlander, Kevin Gusman, Tylor, Megill, Mackenzie, Gore, all stunk. So did Feltner, but I don't think anyone's starting him. But those other four guys, really rough efforts last night. We'll talk about that. We got an injury to Kyle Tucker. I think the news is okay with him. We'll discuss. CJ Abrams is dealing with something. Luis Arraez, Brandon Marsh, Francisco Alvarez, Josh Lowe, Chase Silseth, Robert Gasser, just when we thought he was going to be the answer. And then Jose Urquidy, so just some updates there. As you can see on the bottom of the screen there, yes, that's right. If you're watching us live, remember you can do that on Facebook and on YouTube. If not, just catch the show later, Fantasy Sports Daily on your podcast networks, Pandora, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, on your iTunes account, obviously. And go to fantasyguru.com, click the Elite Plus tab. And if you do that, you'll be taken to the page where you can find Fantasy Sports Daily, of course. But it also takes you to the other podcasts that we have in our network. We've got One Man's Opinion, this show, Mind of Marsal with Armando Marsal, Basketball Diaries of Justin Fensterman, the Race Guru Thunder Hour with Sean Engel and Rich Mileto. So a lot to consume there if podcast thing is your game, baby. And just one more update before we dive into the actual show. Starting tomorrow, we're kicking off our football coverage here on the show. Again, we're going to do 30 minutes to start the show every day with baseball. We'll have a guest Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for about 20 minutes. And then we'll spend the last 10 minutes back on baseball, answering your questions and all that. You can answer your football questions too if you have them. But Wednesday, starting tomorrow, will be Armando Marsal. So all these guys show up at 11:30 Eastern time, unless we change times of the show. 11:30 Eastern time, Armando Marsal on Wednesdays. Tyler Beaker, the recently married Tyler Beaker. Give Tyler a thumbs up there and wish him well with his new marriage. He'll be on Thursdays, and Russell Clay will be on Fridays, getting that started tomorrow for those of you looking for your football fix. Okay. And we'll talk a little bit more about the football product here toward the end of the show as well. It is available right now at fantasyguru.com, as you can see on the scroll at the bottom. All right, let's talk about what we got to talk about today. And let's start out with this news about betting. Tucupita Marcano could receive a lifetime ban from Major League Baseball for betting on baseball, according to Jeff Passan. We had, like I said, we had the Ohtani thing here with his interpreter, and it looks like it was his interpreter stealing money, and he's going to plead guilty to, was it $17-18 million, like something insane. But this is a tough one. And all of you, if you're members of fantasyguru.com, here on the show, on the Elite Sports Game Time show, 8 to 10, Monday through Thursday with Justin Fensterman. On with Jeff Mans on the Elite Sports Show, it's Monday through Friday from 3 to 6 Eastern. I'm on every Wednesday. I've been very open about this. I am not, nor have I ever been a gambler. And it's just not in my DNA. It's just not something. My grandfather, I don't know if he had a gambling problem, but he kind of did. I used to tell the stories. He used to get flown out to casinos to watch boxing matches. If they're flying you on private jets, you probably spend too much money. Never lost his house. Never got beaten up by loan sharks, or it was never like that. He just liked to gamble. And my grandfather, by the way, who I'm named after, I'm the third. Grandfather, dad, and then me. My grandfather was the life of the party. If you were having a party, you wanted my grandfather there. He was the guy. He was just an amazing person. Miss his stories, and we'd go to dinner, and he would just regale us with stories. Anyway, I've never been a gambler, so it's not, I put the bets out at fantasyguru.com. I am part of the crew doing that. We've got a really interesting mix. Jeff Mans often does parlays. Ted Schuster does a little bit of everything. Rob Brink, the MLB model, kind of does money lines and that kind of thing. And I kind of do prop bets. So we kind of have a nice mix going on. Bottom line for me is I get involved. And when I, hit a bet, I feel good for all of you, right? It's like, oh, we made some money. This made sense. The analysis worked and all of that. I can't gamble in California, so it doesn't affect me, but I don't know. I just, But Major League Baseball has gotten itself in this zone of danger. They're in bed with the gambling, and I get it. There are literally billions of dollars to be made. I get it. And I know all the players are told, you can't do this, you can't do that. So they're all aware what the rules are. But, you're running ads for casinos during commercial breaks on your shows, and you've got, banners up at your stadium and stuff. This is going to happen. Not everyone is educated on what they can and can't do. Not everyone is as straight-laced as I am, if we're going to be honest about that. A lot of people have less scruples. If I pat myself on the back, thank you to my parents for raising me well. It's a fine line Major League Baseball is walking. And let's hope that this Marcano story is it. We heard the David Fletcher situation, right? Who's trying to reinvent himself as a pitcher. It's David Fletcher, right? Let me make sure before I besmirch him. It's David Fletcher, right? That had the gambling. He might be involved with the same bookie that was, yeah, it is. David Fletcher might be involved with the same bookie that's, or actually is involved with the same bookie that was Shohei Ohtani's interpreter, it looks like. So they're investigating him. So this is not, it's not going to stop. And unfortunately, it's, we had Calvin Ridley in football. This is just here to stay nowadays. I think it's just something we have to accept. I don't like it, but it's how it is. And let's hope that the situation doesn't become more grandiose than it is right now. All right, let's talk a little bit. So bottom line is be careful when you do your wagering professionally. Be safe and smart about it. Bet the extra money you have. Don't bet money you need to pay your rent, right? Don't bet money that your kids need for tennis shoes. You get the point. Okay. By the way, since I'm talking about kids and this is totally separate, I had a guy, we were talking on the Elite Sports Game Time show last night, and you let me know here in the comments if you would. I had a back and forth with somebody. We were talking about having peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Do you want crunchy peanut butter, smooth peanut butter? This is, again, kids obviously eat these things. I still do myself, so I never grew out of it. But we got into talking about toasting the bread and then putting the peanut butter on it, right? Have you done that? I've done that many times, right? So you toast the bread, you put the peanut butter in there, kind of gets gooey. It's kind of cool. Someone tried to tell me, and seriously tried to tell me, that they were able to use a toaster, not a toaster oven, but a toaster, where you slide the thing in and it pops up, boop, boop. Tried to tell me he was able to put peanut butter on the toast, put the peanut buttered toast in the toaster and have it work. And I'm like, bro, you can't do that. Number one, the peanut butter would slide off the toast. Number two, that would ruin your toaster. I mean, you don't put butter on your toast before you put it in. No. I mean, my God. So this guy was like, am I crazy? Like, if you put it in a toaster oven, it's flat. You put it on top, that's fine, right? You put it in the oven, you broil it, totally fine. You can't put toast in a toaster straight up and down with butter, peanut, or regular. Like, it'll slide right off and ruin your toaster. Am I crazy? Let me know. Anyway, back to baseball. Anthony Santander had 2 runs scored last night. He hit another home run. It's his 11th of the season. And all of a sudden, Santander, who has not quite lived up to expectations, while a lot of his other Oriole mates are who we talk about, right? Because they're sexy and exciting and young and all that. He's only hitting 228. But his isolated power mark is 280, which is that's an all-star level mark. He's driving the baseball well. He's got a strikeout rate of under 20%, which is very nice. His batting average balls and plays below 230. That number is obviously going to come up, and so will his batting average. He is starting to look like the guy that he was drafted to be, and that's the 25 to 30 home run guy driving in 80 runs. That isn't sexy or exciting, but there it is. So it's been a little uneven today for him, but he is starting to round into form. And again, the fact that his isolated power mark is strong, the fact that his strikeout rate is strong, bodes very well for him to continue to be an effective offensive performer, something that we should expect from the outfield first baseman, depending on your setup. Eligible Anthony Santander. Here's an interesting one. Victor Robles, who if you've been around with me for years, thank you. You know that I'm a Robles guy. I've always been a Robles guy. We talked about him here on the show just a couple weeks ago, a week ago, when he was DFA'd. Was picked up by the Mariners immediately. And it's not an ideal landing spot for him because he's going to have to fight for playing time, but he's immediately on the roster. Jonathan Clase was sent to AAA immediately. And this is what happens when you're a youngster, right? It's what we talk about all the time. You got to have the skills. You got to be able to perform. Got to have opportunity. And the Mariners bring in Robles to say he'll be our bench guy. Robles is someone who has only got 33 plate appearances this season, hasn't done anything with the bat. The Mariners will try to figure out a way to coax out of Robles a previous all-star caliber performance. We have seen it. We talked about it. He almost went 20-30 one year. He came up through the minors with all kinds of accolades. He's really struggled the last couple of seasons. I don't know if this is his last chance, but we're getting to that zone. We had David Dahl get called up. David Dahl's kind of in that zone too. David Dahl destroyed the ball down on the minors. Was called up by the Phillies because of the injury to Brandon Marsh. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. But these guys at one point in time, Dahl and Robles at one point in time were 2 of the top 5 outfield prospects in baseball. These guys were supposed to be stars. Dahl, because he's playing in Colorado, was going to go 2020. Robles was going to go 2030. And it just hasn't happened. So Robles goes to the Mariners, becomes an AL only addition. He is not a mixed league play at the moment, but he is someone to keep on your radar because, it's not like Mitch Haniger's Mr. Health there. And it's not like Mitch Garver has been a superstar with the bat. So Robles could find himself with a couple of moves here as a member of the lineup on a daily basis. We'll wait and see if that happens. With the Giants, Heliot Ramos, went 2 for 4 at his 4th home run on Monday against the Diamondbacks. And this is starting to get a little interesting here. The Giants are obviously searching, trying to find the right mix. They're a heavily platoon club. They have for years now done a lot. They've kind of been, for lack of a better way of saying it, the Tampa Bay Rays West, right? They mix and match lineups, and they do it with the pitching staff and the hitting and all that. Heliot Ramos has been very effective. And again, he went 2 for 4 with his 4th home run last night. And he is someone that we've talked about here on the show previously, but I just wanted to check in on him again. 24 games in, 4 home runs, 17 RBIs, hitting 295. Like, this is some really good work. And you look at his last 2 weeks, hitting 298 with an 888 OPS. You look at the last week, 318 with a 966 OPS. So basically, he's been in the big leagues for 4 weeks. And really, every week has kind of been the same, which is pretty impressive, right? Especially for a young player, especially for a guy who's had an opportunity previously. And, last year he hit 179. I mean, he only had 56 at-bats, but he didn't do anything last year. He's ingraining himself in this lineup on a daily basis. And again, there's been a lot of consistency to his game. I've been impressed and a little surprised, to be honest with you. And I think I said this previously. It's like, he is to the point, and he's probably been added in mixed leagues, right? He's to the point where, even if you have no plans of Heliot Ramos being part of your lineup 2 months from now, he's going so well over the last 3 or 4 weeks that it's like, well, pick him up and, we'll pull Kevin Pillar with him, right? We'll use him for the next 3 weeks. He'll start to slow and we'll move on. We'll continue to monitor the Giants' situation in the outfield. What do they plan to do? What do they do with the batting order? But again, Ramos has impressed me more than I anticipated he would. So I just want to give him a little shout out there. Yesterday, this guy, and I talked about this in the cash game breakdown at fantasyguru.com for DFS purposes. Yes, you can still sign up. Go to fantasyguru.com, click the subscribe tab in the top right corner of the page. You can still sign up for our DFS baseball package. You can sign up for the DFS wagering package. You can still get that. The Candelario was in the cash game breakdown, and it's like you look at his numbers, and it's like, okay, well, Ray, why is he in well, he's in Colorado, facing a beatable pitcher, and the metrics are starting to suggest that he's starting to come around, right? And the Smash Report loved him yesterday, and there was no way I could get around Candelario being in the lineup. And interestingly, I think it was like 4,800 on DraftKings, if I remember correctly, which is pretty expensive for a guy that really hasn't done anything. Well, he went 2 for 5 last night, scored a couple of runs, and had a 2-run home run. 7th of the year. He's been a disappointment to the Reds. No way around that. It's just been the case. But he has 2 hits in each of his last 3 games. He's now hitting 300 with 3 home runs his last 10 games. Candelario is somebody who could qualify at 2 positions, depending upon your format. He is a league average type of hitter. I think it's very fair to say that. He has not been that guy to date, but as I've noted here, the last 10 days, he's really started to find his swing. He's probably on waiver wires all over the place. He is not someone that I would anticipate, leading you to a championship by any means, but kind of like Heliot Ramos. He's someone that, right now we're starting to see a groove. We're starting to see the swing come together. We're starting to see the production also come from that. So if Candelario is on waivers, and he is, and you need a boost at the corner infield spot, like in one league, I got Justin Turner, who I haven't played in 4 weeks. If I don't know if Candelario is on the waiver wire in that league, but if he was, I'd be looking to make a move. It's like you got to start making decisions here, especially for those of you that play in head-to-head. Candelario is a very interesting option because indeed he is starting to warm up a little bit. All right, let's talk about the situation with his teammate, Noelvi Marte. Just a reminder, we got a report yesterday that, just everyone remember this. Marte was suspended for PED use. He's got an 80-game suspension. He's not eligible to rejoin the Reds until June 27th. So a little over 3 weeks from now. On June 11th, a week from now, he'll start playing in minor league games. Okay, so he'll have about 2 weeks to find his stroke and everything like that. We'll see what happens when he's recalled. Now, the plan was to play him every day. And remember this, he's got the ability, Marte, to be a difference-making player in the real world and a difference-making player in fantasy. He's got power. He's got speed. I think he was definitely in the top 10 when he came out for rookies this season. He might have been in the top 5. I'm trying to remember exactly how I had it. It's been a while. But he was in the mix for Rookie of the Year in the National League. So when he returns, what does this mean? Well, it's kind of up in the air what's going to happen. Jonathan India continues to be, and there was a lot of talk with India being a super sub because Marte was expected to be in the lineup every day. Could he play second base? Well, he's going to probably play a little second, Marte, maybe a little bit of shortstop. They've got Ellie De La Cruz there, but they'll get him some action there just in case. Third base right now is Candelario. Would they keep Candelario at third base? Well, if you look at the DH spot, they're rotating through guys like Nick Martini and Santiago Espinal and Stuart Fairchild. Now that means that when Marte returns, he's likely to go in the lineup right away on a consistent daily basis. Now, the problem for Marte is that at some point in the second half, Matt McClain will be back. At some point here in the recent future, maybe a couple of weeks, maybe around actually the time that we do see Noelvi Marte in the majors, Christian Encarnacion will be over his fractured wrist, hopefully, right? So, again, this is one of those scenarios where I'm telling you now about Noelvi Marte. If you're in a keeper league, now's the time to add him before anyone really gets going, or maybe wait a week and do it this Sunday, that kind of thing, because he'll start playing next week with that goal of, again, returning by the end of the month. But he is still somebody that, in the right scenario, is absolutely worth adding. And we'll just have to see how the playing time goes with the Reds. And as we said since the start of the season, when Kyle was still here, Kyle Lovefrank, when we started, the Reds got too many guys, but sometimes it all just works out. Speaking of Marte, let's talk about Starling Marte, the older version that is, as far as I know, not related to Noelvi Marte. Starling went 3 for 5, stole a base last night. That's his 10th steal of the season. He's actually done a very good job of kind of resurrecting things. The biggest issue for Marte is he's been healthy. And as a result of being healthy, he's got 6 home runs and 10 steals while playing in 55 games. Obviously, that's a full season pace of about 1830, something like that. He's been at that zone many, many times in his career. He's batting .275. The batted ball metrics are very positive with Marte. He is in a very nice groove the last 2 weeks in 12 games. 2 home runs, 2 steals, 7 runs, 7 RBIs, hitting .343 with a .949 OPS. Even better, last week he went 9 for 22 the last week with 2 steals. The 9 for 22 is a .409 batting average, so he is blazing along. You have to be concerned about his health because he's at an age where you would be concerned about that anyway. And then his track record, it's like, okay, right, we get it. But he's really, again, performed well. The batted ball data is really good, and he is on it the last couple of weeks. So I just want to give a shout out to the veteran, Starling Marte. Let's talk a little bit about some pitchers before we talk about some injured guys. And this one is interesting because Ryne Nelson profiled going into the game last night against the Giants as someone, and he was in the cash game breakdown, as someone to attack, right? Because this is just bad stuff. So what does he do? 2 runs in 7 2/3 innings last night and looked good. But did he look good? The results, the box score say yes. The real world scenario with Ryne Nelson says, hell no, he was terrible. And again, I just wanted to use this as an illustrative thing here because, you know, there is, and I had this discussion with Justin Fensterman on the Elite Sports Show. Again, that's Monday through Friday from 8 to 10 Eastern time on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. We had a discussion about WOBA and expected WOBA, and I recently wrote about that over at the site. And how you having the results, knowing the results baseline, he gave up 2 runs in 7 2/3 innings. Okay, that's a starting point. Then we have what the deeper data dive tells us. The results were good. The real truth was something different. And that's the balancing act we have to do here. Sometimes the results are terrible, but when you dive in deeper, there's a lot to like, right? So it's not, in the fantasy world, it all matters what actually happened. If you laid a bet, all that matters is what actually happened. Did the bet hit or not? But if we're trying to analyze the player, we've got to get beyond that surface level because sometimes the bet that hit didn't deserve it. Sometimes the bet that missed should have hit. The same thing with the player, the call that you made to play this guy or pitch this guy today or tomorrow, whatever it might be. Today or yesterday, I should say. So in the case of Nelson, again, 7 innings, 2 runs against the Giants. Got a no decision, but pitched well on the surface. Now, going into the game, there's no way in hell I would have pitched him. I stand by that decision that I made yesterday, and here's why. He had 1 strikeout in 7 2/3 innings. That is terrible. And you say to yourself, well, Ray, how did he get through 7 2/3 innings? He was balls lucky. Let's just call it what it was. He had 11 hard hit baseballs. To be a hard hit baseball, it has to be 95 plus miles an hour, which is hard, right? 7 of them were over 103 miles an hour, which is balls hot. He somehow gave up 6 hits despite giving up 11 hard hit baseballs. That is very rare. And when you say 7 baseballs hit at 103, these are guys ripping the baseball. This is not solid contact. This is ripping the baseball. And he gave up 2 runs over 7 2/3 innings. So don't run to the waiver wire and add Ryne Nelson. Again, I don't think anyone was thinking about doing that anyway. I think this is just more of a reminder that we have to look below the surface because while the surface numbers are what works in the fantasy space or the betting space, we need to know whether it was earned or not. And in the case of Ryne Nelson's overall numbers last night, in the fantasy space, they were not earned. He deserved a much worse result than the one he produced. Justin Verlander allowed 4 runs in 5 innings, got a no decision. And we talked a lot about him on the show last night. Justin and I did again, 8 to 10 Eastern, Monday to Thursday. Verlander is 41 years old. He's going to the Hall of Fame, but he's just not the pitcher he used to be. And that's okay. I mean, that's okay. That's duh. he's still effective. But I think what we have to do, and this is starting to become, I think, easier to do, is that you have to say, look, it's Justin Verlander, but he's not Justin Verlander. You know what I mean? We see the name, we know the lifestyle, we know the hot wife. Is he married? He's married to what's her face, right? I think he's married to her. Maybe they're just together. I don't know. He's got and I can't remember her name. What's her name? Someone help me out in the chat room here. I'm drawing a blank on Justin Verlander. Who is it? Justin Verlander, the beautiful blonde. Justin Verlander, wife. Kate Upton. There we go. Kate Upton, who I have said on occasions not beautiful and gotten smashed for that. I think she's really pretty, but I think there are more attractive women out there. Regardless, but interestingly enough, when you type in Kate Upton, Jessica Alba's name comes up for people to also search for her. Jessica Alba, I would prefer, if we're being honest. Jessica Alba, by the way, has got a new movie coming out on Netflix. I saw it last night while I was scrolling through. Got a new movie on Netflix where it looks like she's a badass beating people up, kind of going back to the old Dark Angel days on Fox. Anyway, before we get sidetracked and I start talking about chicks the whole show, and sorry for those that I just offended by saying chicks, back to Justin Verlander directly. He's not Justin Verlander anymore. He's just a solid pitcher. And we saw that again last night. He gave up 7 hits, walked 2, struck out 4, and allowed 3 home runs. That's a home run per 9 at this point of 1.9, which is scary bad. And, the issue for Verlander is that he has long had, let's pull it up. He has long had a style of pitching, which includes elevating the fastball and getting a lot of fly balls. Eventually you lose a little bit of oomph, you lose a little bit of movement, and those fastballs up in the zone start to be hit. And you look at his career number, his home run per 9 is 0.94, which is a really good mark. Okay, it's a really good mark. Now, that's heavily influenced by the start of his career. Since 2016, the mark is 1.2, which is league average. If we jot that down to 2019, the mark is 1.15. So we're in that just about league average zone for him right now. Why has it changed this year? Well, his fly ball rate, which again has always been a little elevated, is 58%. That's a huge number. So his home run to fly ball ratio is 13%, which is a little high for him, a little bit, a couple points, nothing, it's basically league average, like again, a point above league average, basically league average. But he's gone from a 43% fly ball rate to 58%. He's going to give up home runs, and they're going to continue to be an issue for him. So the efforts such as last night, where there's a big number there in the run score column, it's hard to see that vanishing completely if he continues to allow that many fly balls. Let's check his launch angle at. Yeah, his launch angle is at 23% right now. In the last 2 years, it's been about 18%. So that's significantly higher. He is going to be in the home run zone if he keeps doing that. He was one of, and again, I'm not saying to panic if you have Justin Verlander on your team, but I'm saying be reasonable and understand that he's no longer a strikeout an inning guy, and that his ratios, or at least his ERA in particular, are going to be volatile on a start-by-start basis because of the fact that he gives up so many fly balls. His 3.63 ERA right now. His xFIP, as an example, is 4.7. His ERA is 4.5. Oof. Like I said, Justin Verlander is basically league average. He's in the Jordan Montgomery zone. I know Jordan Montgomery has struggled, but he's in that Jordan Montgomery zone of pitching, which again is totally usable, but he's not Justin Verlander anymore. He was one of many guys last night. So 4 runs in 5 innings actually was very good considering what happened last night on the hill. Kevin Gusman gave up 6 runs in 6 1/3 innings. Tylor Megill gave up 5 runs in 5 innings. Mackenzie Gore gave up 6 runs in 4 1/3 innings. And then I mentioned Ryan Feltner earlier, 8 runs in 4 1/3 innings. No one pitched Feltner, who cares? Gusman, Megill, and Gore were all in the cash game breakdown yesterday. That's about as bad as a result as I think I've ever gotten. For those people that aren't subscribers, I know this is a great thing. Go subscribe to the DFS article where Ray says play these guys. I know. There's 6 pitchers we highlight every day. I think it's got to be the first time I've ever, and I've been doing this for years, ever had 3 of the 6 guys give up 6 runs, or 5 runs, I guess, because Megill did 5, 6, and 6 runs. Megill was like 7,200 on DraftKings. I think everyone probably used him as their second pitcher. Kevin Gusman was my choice because he was a pay down option in FanDuel. He was 8,200. He bombed. Mackenzie Gore was like 9,000 on DraftKings. He bombed. Like, it was bad. And that, number one, doesn't ever happen to me as an analyst. I don't ever do that. So we'll be much better today with the cash game breakdown. But secondly, you look at these guys. Gusman, we've talked about him a lot. There's been some ups and downs to his performance. It's every time it seems like, all right, Kevin Gusman's back. Something like yesterday happens. And it's like, he just, and you have to start, when you pull back from this and you start thinking about it, it's like, okay, are we starting to enter that zone, right? Where Kevin Gusman's just not Kevin Gusman anymore. He can still dial it up. And when he's locked in, it's still fantastic. But start to start, he's getting a little older. There's a lot of workload on that arm. Trevor Megill had pitched very well his first 3 outings. His innings pitched mark was going up in the 3 outings. His pitch count went up in the 3 outings. His strikeout rate went up in the 3 outings. I think he shut out the Dodgers. It was either 0 or 1 run last time he faced the Dodgers in a really strong effort. I think it was 7 innings, if I remember correctly, with Megill. So he comes into this game against Washington, gets blasted totally out of nowhere. And Mackenzie Gore just, he entered last night with a 5-1 strikeout to walk ratio his last 4 starts. Last night, I remember checking, he had 2 strikeouts and 4 walks. What? He had a 5 strikeout to walk ratio entering the start last night in the previous 4 starts. And last night it was 0.5. Like, come on, man. So he had his worst game. And so these things just happen. I don't think there's any overarching concern with any of those 3 guys. I think that, it just happens. It just happened all in one day, which is terrible, especially if you have multiple guys like this on your fantasy squad, especially if you're in a head-to-head setup. But Gusman is someone, let's look at him real quickly. Gusman's just, and like I said, I don't have Gusman on any of my teams. I don't think I have Gusman on any of my team because we came into the season and he was, when is he going to start, and his shoulder, and is he going to miss an outing or 2? We weren't quite sure. A lot of my drafts were early and we didn't even know. I mean, there was a chance he was going to miss April, that kind of thing. He ended up getting out there early. First outing was solid, gave up 1 run. Second outing, gave up 6 runs and got 4 outs. Then his third outing, he got through 3 2/3 innings and allowed 6 runs. So 2 of his first 3 starts were catastrophic. Then he had another 7-run effort against Minnesota where he pitched 3 innings back on the 11th of May, and then the 6-run effort there. So look at this is since, let's see. So since April 17th, here are his earned runs: 1, 0, 1, 0, 6, 3, 1, 1, 6. That's not, I mean, my goodness. He's had 3 efforts where he's had 4 efforts where he's given up at least 6 runs. One of them was only 5 earned. But 4 of his 12 starts, he's given up 6 runs. I mean, it's amazing his ERA is 4.6. Because that's getting some beatdown stuff. And his strikeout rate, if we pull back and look at the seasonal numbers here, the walk rate is still strong. It's actually below his career average. The 23% strikeout rate is below his career average, and it's insanely different from where he has been the last 4 years. The last 4 years is at 30%, which is elite for a starting pitcher. Certifiably elite. This year it's 23%. Which again is right about the league average. That's a significant drop. And if we go a little bit further, his CSW of 27% would be a low since 2016. His swinging strike ratio of 11.2% would be a low since 2017. His 35.2% O swing rate is right about his career mark. So he's still getting people to chase when he gets ahead in the count. But the bottom line is he basically right now looks like a 1 strikeout per 9 inning kind of guy, basically right where he is. And that is off the pace. And that is extremely disappointing in the excess. We're talking about losing 2 full batters per 9 innings from where he's been the last 4 seasons. He's just not that same guy right now. And the up and down nature, again, it causes me concern. There's nothing you can do. You don't panic and trade him. You don't, rage drop him. You don't do anything like that. I just think you have to set your sights on a more reasonable level. The good news is he's making starts and he's been healthy. I think at the end of the day, these things even out a little bit as the course of the season goes. I would anticipate his ratios getting better than where they are. 1.34 WHIP, 4.6 ERA. Those numbers don't work really. Again, heavily influenced by the effort last night, but he's just been uneven. And he's 33, and we'll see how it goes the rest of the way. All right, talking about some of the injured players here. Let me send this tweet out just to let people know we're still doing the show. There it is. Kyle Tucker, and I talked about this on the Elite Sports Show last night. I have done what Kyle Tucker did last night. There was a pitch thrown to Kyle Tucker. He then lined it off his shin, and it hurts like a mofo. And I described my Pony Baseball All-Star experience when I did this to myself. The only time I've ever done it, but I did it to myself. Drove a baseball off my shin, and I fell over because it hit my leg, and I just lost my leg. So I fell over. Thank goodness I was okay. I was able to stay in the game, but I couldn't feel my leg. Like I legit couldn't feel I think I struck out if I remember properly. I couldn't. I want to say I grounded out to shortstop now that I think about it. I think I grounded out to shortstop. But it took me like 2 innings before I could feel my leg. And it's just, so he tried to stay in the game. Wasn't able to stay in the game last night was Kyle Tucker. The good news is they ran x-rays, which is obviously a concern. You can crack a bone, right? The concerns were waylaid at least a bit because the x-rays were negative. He's being called day to day. We'll see. Now, there's still a chance that there's an IL stint coming for Tucker. There's a chance that he's got a significant bone bruise, which may preclude him from running in the short term. That's a concern as well. The good news is nothing catastrophic. It was on the shin, so there's no worries about ligaments or anything like that. Your shin bone is pretty tough, so he's probably going to be fine, but it is something to monitor, especially, again, his ability to run. I think that obviously sets him apart, the 30-30 nature of his game. We'll see if he can continue to do that with that leg issue at the moment. CJ Abrams has missed 3 straight games, and they were saying it was an illness related, and then it's kind of like, well, it's his shoulder, and he says that he's improving every day, but when he swings, it's kind of there. And Abrams he started out great, and then he went bad. How bad has it been of late with CJ Abrams? Over the last 23 games, which is basically a month, no steals and hitting 200. Oof. Like, CJ, bro, like, come on, buddy. His batting average is down to 248. He's still on pace to go 2020 this year. Of course, after nearly going 2050 last year, that's extremely disappointing. The batting average and OPS are actually better than last year, but remember, last year he was tremendous in the second half down the stretch. Overall, this has been passable. It's been a disappointment, though, for getting really fine with that fine-tooth comb, if you will, which I don't have because I don't have any hair. He's got to get going here. And I anticipate if he's healthy, he obviously will, but is he healthy? How much is that shoulder really, they're calling him day to day. We're not hearing an injury, injured list kind of thing. I hope this doesn't become a Austin Riley scenario, right? Where Riley, he missed 13 days without ever being placed on the injured list. Again, Abrams himself said he's improving, but his shoulder is still bothering him when he swings. So continue to wait. I want to say, again, if you're on pace to go 25-25, is that really, it's like, is that disappointing? I'm going to say yes. I'll just leave it at that with CJ Abrams. Let's just hope he's healthy. Brandon Marsh has a hamstring strain. He's been placed on the injured list. He says, he basically was quoted as saying, I expect a quick turnaround. So hopefully it's a minimum stay or very close to it with Brandon Marsh. As I noted earlier in the show today, David Dahl, yes, the former Rocky potential star in the outfield, who's injured, famously with the spleen way back, was hitting 340 with a 1,000 OPS and 12 home runs down at AAA. He was blazing hot. He's called up. It is conceivable, as a lefty swinger himself, that he could just drop right into Brandon Marsh's job, face all the right-handed pitching for the next couple of weeks until Marsh is back. Very conceivable Dahl could do that. And again, this is a talented player, no doubt about that, and a talented player who was destroying it at the minor league level. Am I saying everyone go run out and grab David Dahl? No. Am I expecting him to be in this lineup in a month? Not unless he's just a bench guy, right? He's the depth play in the outfield. But if you want to roll the dice, if you're a little desperate, there you go. David Dahl. I know. Jim Bowden, the former GM, was on the Sirius XM yesterday talking about it. And he's like, I can't believe that David Dahl's back in the big leagues at this point. So, that's a former general manager talking about him. He obviously didn't become who he could have been, but maybe he does something in the short term, at least for the Phillies. Luis Arraez has got a shoulder issue. They are calling it the Padres day to day. They said maybe he'll be available to pinch hit. They had multiple pinch hitting efforts last night. He didn't pinch hit. So let's hope that his shoulder is okay. This is obviously terrible timing because he has been, talk about blazing hot. The last 2 weeks, he's 22 for 50, which is a 440 batting average. And even though he only has 1 home run in that time, 962 OPS. I mean, I think a lot of people overlook the fact they talk about the 354 batting average last year and he hit 10 home runs, right? They overlook the fact that his OPS was 862. Like, that's an all-star level OPS too. And for a guy with 10 home runs, that's really good. This year, he's got a 785 OPS on the season. It is 833 the last month. So, and that's with 1 home run. Pretty good. So anyway, we know he's been blazing hot. He's been getting 2 hits every day since he joined the Padres, it seems. He's not yet been placed on the injured list. We're not hearing that. But it's something to keep an eye on because obviously we can't have him have a shoulder dragging and inhibiting his ability to inside out that ball to left field as he does so effectively. Francisco Alvarez coming back from his thumb UCL. Remember, there's 2 different UCLs. His thumb UCL, he was pushing to be activated for this weekend series in London. The Mets decided to back off that, so that's not going to happen, which I think is okay. Who cares at this point? Well, we talked about London yesterday. Looks like Alvarez has got a legitimate shot to be available next week at some point, maybe early in the week. So maybe right at the start of the week for the Mets, which is great news. So far, he's gone 2 for 8 with the home run in the farm, so it can't hurt him to get some more work down there anyway, to get some swings in, play a little bit more. I don't think he's actually going to travel with the team if reports that we're hearing now are accurate, and that makes all the sense, and we'll keep him here in the States, allow him to keep playing so that next week his swing is in line with his abilities and allowing him to obviously have success at the big league level. So we'll look for Francisco Alvarez to bring that power bat back to the Mets lineup, hopefully starting next week. Josh Lowe was activated from the injured list yesterday. This has been a absolutely terrible season to date for him. He just has not been on the field. And this goes all the way back to spring training. He played three or four games in spring training. I'm going to look this up as we're talking. I think it was 3 or 4 games he played in spring training. Let's click on it. There it is. Spring training, he played 2 games. 2. Yeah, he missed all of spring training. So far this season, he's played 13 games at AAA, 14 games at the big league level. So he's played a total of 29 games? Most major league teams have played 30 games now, and then you got 30 spring games, like 60 games now, excuse me. There's basically been an opportunity to play like 90 games, and he's played in 29. So, we saw last year what he can do, who he could be. He finally reached the levels that were expected of him as one of the higher-end power speed prospects in baseball. He went 20-30 last year, hit 292, which we all questioned whether he can do that. Let's call him a 255-60 hitter. Let's just hope he stays healthy at this point. Power's legit, speed's legit. There'll be some platooning, as we know. That's the way the Rays run it. But there is a difference-making player in there if he can stay on the field. He just hasn't been able to do that to date. Chase Silseth is going to make his second minor league rehab start on Thursday. Last time out, he threw 3 scoreless innings in rookie balls. He's coming back from elbow inflammation. Reed Detmers was sent down. Reed Detmers' spot in the rotation's up for grabs, and Silseth could claim it. Now, it might still be 2 weeks before we see him at the big league level. There's always a chance that, he makes a start this week and they insert him in the rotation next week and say, hey, go for the 4 innings for us. You never know what teams do anymore. It's not like it was in the old days where the guy had to be able to throw 6 innings when he returned. But Silseth could, and he's another one of these guys that's had a real hard time staying healthy, could slide into Reed Detmers' spot in the rotation while Detmers is trying to figure his game out down in the minor leagues. So we'll see. Silseth has got a nice arm. I think, again, with him, it's about being healthy, and if he's healthy, he's intriguing. So just an update. Put him on your watch list. Chase Silseth, hopefully coming soon to a stadium near you, pitching for the Angels. Robert Gasser, who we've had in-depth discussions about here on the show, who has a 2.5 ERA in 5 starts for the Brewers, who everyone was starting to get excited about and talking about the uniqueness of his pitching style, his low release point, causing his ball to move a little differently than batters are expecting, having all this success. Well, he's got elbow tightness and some soreness, and he's getting a second opinion, and yikes. Now, we can be positive and say, well, he's getting a second opinion because they just want to be, he and the team just want to be sure. Okay. You can take that line of thought. My line of thought, and it's probably your line of thought too, is when you have a second opinion, we got a problem. The first doctor said something we didn't like. First doctor saw something in imaging, or when they actually were doing the actual manipulation of Gasser in person with the visit with the doctor. So at this point in time, I mean, he had a bone spur in his elbow. Is it moved to a point where there's now concern? Are they going to have surgery? Even if it's arthroscopic and it's not, UCL surgery or anything like that, is, what's going on here? So Gasser, and again, it's really frustrating. Phil Backert, who writes DFS work for us at fantasyguru.com and does IDP for football, also our producer on the Elite Sports Show with Jeff Manns. He and I talk every day on IM, and at some point, almost every day, at some point, he or I will send a note to the other one about a pitcher with an injury, almost every day. And it's just, we laugh at this point almost, because it's like, this is just, Gasser comes up to fill a spot on your fantasy squad, right? Almost certainly for someone that went down with an injury. Because even when Gasser was promoted, it wasn't like we got to go get Gasser, right? Even I was not that boat at all. And even people that were pro Gasser in the fantasy space were not telling you, blow your fab budget, go spend 30% to get. No one was doing that. So you probably picked up Gasser on a whim or to replace an injured guy, and now he's dealing with an injury. And this is what we talk about in Tout Wars. I'm down to like my fourth guy. Lodolo returned, but I was like 4 guys in for Lodolo's spot when he was hurt. I'd pick a guy up, and 2 weeks later he'd get hurt, and I'd pick another guy up, and a week later he'd get hurt. And then it's like, geez, man, Robert Gasser's the next guy. We don't have any definitive news. Hopefully we'll get something today, but I am nervous, as I think we all should be given what we know. Finally, Jose Urquidy. He's expected to have Tommy John surgery, or at least UCL surgery. I don't know if they're calling it Tommy John surgery at the moment or not. But the expectation is he's going to have surgery on his elbow. That obviously will end his season. That puts the start of next season in grave peril. That it puts probably the likelihood of him returning to the big leagues as at the second half next year in a best case scenario. As I have said previously, we got problems. I mean, look at the Astros. They've got Luis Garcia on the injured list. I mean, 4 of their 5 starters, Luis Garcia, Christian Javier, Lance McCullers, Jose Urquidy. Okay, maybe that's 3 of their 5 starters, because the other 2 would be, Valdez and Verlander. Then you've got Hunter Brown. I mean, thank goodness Hunter Brown started around into form. They're going to have to keep pitching Spencer Arrighetti. Ronel Blanco has been a lifesaver. I mean, they've patched it together pretty well, but those are some serious arms we're talking about being on the injured list. They also have, Kendall Graveman, and he had shoulder surgery, who's supposed to be a big piece of their bullpen. So they've dealt with things. Then, as I've said here previously on the show, I think I've said it on the show. I've said it other places as well. What are we doing that's wrong here? Okay, we can all talk about everything, and the fact is that pitchers get hurt every day. It's worse than it's ever been. We all know it. Everyone knows it. Is there anything we can do? And we have talked about on the show the fact that pitchers just pitch, and Nick Pivetta being a prime example of this. Nick Pivetta says, man, I got a certain number of bullets and I'm just going balls to the wall. We're just going. And if I get hurt, I get hurt. That's what pitchers do. They train. They try to get that big contract, knowing that their arm's a ticking time bomb. They try to get that 3 or 4 year contract that sets them up for life. And then if their arm blows up, their arm blows up, because they got their $30 million on their 3-year deal or whatever it is, right? But what are we doing when you have a ligament that tears, UCL? It's repaired. How do you then have another Tommy John surgery 3 or 4 years later? Doesn't that tell you directly we got a problem? Unless the doctor screwed up the surgery, which I don't think is the case when this happens, right? We see some guys with second Tommy John surgery. We see others with 3 Tommy John surgeries. We got a problem. And I don't know what I would do if I tore my elbow and went through 14 months of rehab to get back out there, and then 3 years later I tore it again. Am I just going to go through that same process again? Or am I going to say, I got to change this up? I need to change my mechanics, because clearly my mechanics are leading to this issue. Because we've always heard that when your ligament, which is worn down for 25 years, 28 years, however old you are, right? When you have the surgery, when the ligament is fixed, you should be okay. You have a brand new ligament, right? You should get another 20 years out of it before it goes again. How is it going in 3 or 4 years? So I don't know. But again, we're just not doing things right. And there it is. All right, let's pull back from this and let's take a look at your comments here before we shut things down here on Fantasy Sports Daily. Doug says, morning, Doug. John G says, I wouldn't mind a later start. Just listen to that replay. Thank you, John. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think I might do that here coming up. We've talked about it. Might do it coming up in football season, as I discussed at the start of the show if you missed it. I've been getting up at 5:40 in the morning here the last couple of days because my lady's down in San Diego for work. She's going to have to be traveling more for work coming up here. It'd be nice if I could get up at 6:45 in the morning instead of 5:40. So we'll consider that move. If we make that move, it'll be very clear. We'll all talk about it. It won't just happen one day, so don't worry about that. Chaka says, morning, Ray. Move it to noon Eastern, 9 Pacific. Make it so. Congrats to the baseball gal. Yeah, thank you, Chaka. Yeah, she's we always say, like, she's really low-key, and I don't brag about her much except to friends, but hell, she's very successful. She's actually a doctor and a lawyer. So yeah, I used to be the smart one in my relationships. I'm no longer the smart one in my relationship. Doctor and a lawyer. Yeah, that's got me beat. So thank you for the kind word, Chaka. John G says again, my 3-year-old wakes up at 4:30 a.m. Super fun. Yeah, that's great, isn't it? It's great when the cat, has happened on Monday night or Sunday night going into Monday, Sunday night, had a hairball at 3 o'clock. So woke up to the vomiting kitten. Then had to get up in 2.5 hours to take the dog out. So yeah. It's strenuous, and I've always known this about myself. And I was very upfront with my lady about this when we met. I didn't want kids. It's too much. You know, I'll be a great uncle, which I think I hopefully have been to my niece and nephew, that my brother's kids, and animals have always been part of my life. But it's hard work taking care of an animal. Taking care of a kid, more power to all of you that do that. That's doing God's work, as they say. Great Filibuster says, good morning, Ray. Good morning. Great. Angelo, yo, Christopher, thank you for the help. I was Kate Upton. I could see her in my head, but couldn't think of her name. And I don't know, does this happen to you? Maybe it's just 'cause I'm getting older. Like I think it's multiple things. One, I don't think I'm getting enough rest. 2, I haven't had a vacation in 4 years. And 3, I think age is creeping in a little bit. I mean, you can see me today. I was quoting stats from yesterday without looking at anything. So I'm fine. But sometimes it's like, where's the word Kate Upton? You know, it's like, I feel like 3 years ago I would have known that. I don't know. Maybe I'm just crazy. Back to Chaka. Ray, I traded Holiday to get Judge, and I'm looking to... What? You traded Holiday to get Judge? Wow. What kind of keeper league magic is this? Obvious guys gone. Do you like Mauricio, Mayer, Emmanuel Rodriguez, Sproat, or Sam Basallo? Because you want to fill your minor league spot. Okay. Basallo. I think, and we saw this the other day, Phil Backert, who we were talking about, which sent me a video of Basallo hitting a home run on a pitch that was outside, out of the strike zone, I don't know, below his knees. And he golfed it like 400 feet to the opposite field for a home run. Basallo is a baller. Okay. He can blast it. And he's going to be a significant force at the big league level. He's only 19 years old. But at AAA this year, you know, he's holding his own. He's batting .286, got about 790 OPS, you know, so it's not bad. I think he'd be the guy because, you know, difference-making catchers are rare. I'd go that way. Maybe Mayer if you want to, if you need the middle infield stuff, but since you traded Holiday away, but Basallo, I think he's going to be someone we're talking about a lot in the fantasy space. Kate Upton is gorgeous, man, according to Doug. You know, it's so funny. You see people without makeup, like I show you my face every day without makeup. So, you know how good looking I would be if I was wearing makeup. Some people, they don't look the same when you see them without makeup. It's interesting, right? Or even dudes, like when they're not shaved or whatever, they look a little ragged around the edges. I don't know. Who am I to talk? I'm gray and bald, but that's just my thought. David P, keep up the great work, Ray. Thank you, David. I always appreciate you jumping in here and leaving some comments. Doug M, thanks for the show, Ray. Keep us informed about the starting time changes. Peace. You got it, Doug. Absolutely. We'll keep you all informed about that. It's not happening in June, so it would be July if we did it anyway. So we got some time. And again, I'll be very clear with all of you about that. Don't forget, before I let everyone go, don't forget what we got going on at fantasyguru.com. And you know what that is? That is, we got some fantasy football love. The draft guide is available right now. It's popping. Head over to the site. Click the subscribe tab in the top right-hand corner of the page. You can go to fantasyguru.com/product/NFL-memberships if you want to sign up there. There's no promo code at the moment because the product's already been discounted. We got the early bird pricing available right now. As you can see there on the screen, live streams, Discord, sleeper projections, cheat sheets, rankings for IDP. So we got a full IDP suite. We've got custom league scoring cheat sheets, a mock draft simulator if you want to kind of play around and see how things go, the coaching system breakdowns, the offensive line breakdowns, the rookie player profiles, Superflex 2 QB charts. We got all of these things over at fantasyguru.com. So head over there right now, get signed up. Remember, full season product all the way through the NFL season in 2024. It's not just for the preseason. All the way through, get yourself a copy of that draft guide over at fantasyguru.com. You will not be disappointed. See you again tomorrow here on Ray Flowers on Fantasy Sports Day, 11 a.m. for now, Monday through Friday. So we'll be back again tomorrow. A final update. It does indeed look like we're going to be recording the show. So for the first time, we will not be live on Friday. I will be recording the show on Thursday night. It will still be available on Friday, so don't worry about that. Still be able to watch it, hear it, and all that kind of thing. But as I spoke about earlier yesterday, I got to get my car serviced. I got to sit at the stupid dealership and wait for that to happen. I got to get in early before the 9,000 cars come in. Is that interesting? Oh, yeah, we sell great cars, and then the cars are always in the shop. My car has been very good, by the way, so I'm not personally complaining. But, I went in the back room last time I was there because they wanted to show me. It was really cool. They had the car up on the lift. And they wanted to show me stuff. And there's 40, 50 bays in that BMW dealership. I'm like, whoa. So they were like all full. So it's quite the racket if you can get into the car fixing business. I'm just getting a tune up and a checkup and all that kind of stuff. It's a 50,000 mile thing or whatever. So it shouldn't be anything bad, but won't be here on Friday live, but the show will be available. Don't worry. We will not short you a show. You will get episode 159 on time this week. Got to go finish up the cash game breakdown and do better today than we did yesterday on the pitching side of things. Fingers crossed on that one. I am Ray Flowers. Thanks for listening today and watching today to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com.